Hey guys, so we're going to be doing some maintenance on my 3D printer. So first off, I need to clean the dust out from underneath this thing. It's starting to get kind of nasty, but mostly what I'm worried about today is the fact that these belts are getting really loose, and I even have some tensioners on here that I printed off. So if I take those off, I can probably squeeze in another couple notches into the belt here, kind of shorten that up. So anyway, I'll get the bed leveled, and we'll get everything oiled up here, since the instruction manual for this thing tells you to oil the rods here. I went ahead and oiled these things too, the threaded rod, which actually does seem to make a pretty big difference in how well those motors go up and down. So if I take the belt tensioners off of there, now it's really loose, and this is a thicker one up here. One thing that I always didn't like about this printer though is that the belt going through this plastic piece here actually rubs up against it. It also doesn't seem like this pulley, I suppose it is, it doesn't seem like it's mounted on there right. It seems like it's off center, so I don't know. I didn't put that on there. It came from the factory like that. So this was a kit printer, so I put the whole thing together. But alright, so with all those belt tensioners off, there's like, you see how much plays in that before the motor even starts to spin. And this one I can feel the belt slipping on. So anyway, I'm gonna have to do some disassembly on this thing. When I first built this, like I said, this wasn't a very high quality kit, but that screw hole there didn't align right, so I actually had to put glue across this thing in order to make it stay reasonably well, or keep it from moving this direction. That actually seems to work fairly well. So there's a bunch of screws in the back of this that I'm going to take off, and we're going to move these belts a little bit. So go ahead and just do that. I'll start taking it apart. I might move it over to my main desk and work on it over there, but anyhow, let's get to it. Alright, so I brought the printer over here. I just unhooked everything from the power supply and brought the printer itself over. And this is kind of a mess when it comes to cable management, but this is, of course, is the back side, so I just run all these wires underneath the desk and you can't see it. So yeah, excuse me. Anyway, a lot of wires going everywhere. This thing did have limit switches on it, but for whatever reason it always went backward. It only had limit switches going one direction, so I thought, well, it's kind of pointless to even have them. So they're all unhooked. Most of them, the wires are broken off of anyway, so I should just go and take the wires back off of that. Like, this is a limit switch wire. Should just get rid of that. But anyway, what I want to do now is just take this thing off, and I should be able to get to the belt holders, or whatever you want to call them, in there. And I'll redo those and get that stuff tightened up. And that's what that looks like with the cover off. Couple of bearings in here. You can see I have kept the thing oiled. There's a couple lines of oil on this piece here. You can see that, and that was right where the rods were, so a little bit too much oil on there. But now I've got to cut these zip ties and then just redo the belt tensioning on this. But anyway, not a whole lot in that. So go ahead and just get the belts tightened. That's pretty simple. I just got to cut one of the zip ties off, pull the belt through a little further, and, well, I have to cut that zip tie off, pull it as tight as I can get it, and try to slide it into those grooves that are in there. So anyway, I'll see you when that's done. Alright, so that one is done. It's reasonably tight, at least. Doesn't have all that slack in it. So anyhow, now I'm probably going to have to flip this up and get it to the bottom one. Should be the Y-axis. Yeah, that one actually looks like it's pretty easy to get to. I don't have to take any screws out, at the very least. That should sit just like that without much of an issue. See, this one's just got the same thing with the zip tie on there, so I got to cut one of the zip ties off and pull that belt tighter and slip it back on, put a new zip tie on it. So same thing. Alright, so the belts are both tightened up here. They're at least a lot better than they were, especially considering there's no tensioners on them. And I pulled out the wiring for the limit switches because those weren't hooked up anyway. So now I'm just going to go and clean that spot off, clean the dust off it. And I'm going to take this tape that's bad back here, replace that, get the bed leveled, and get everything oiled here. So I'll go ahead and start getting to work on that. Alright, so I got everything hooked back up over here. I'm going to go ahead and plug in the power to this thing, raise up the Z-axis so I can get a better access to the tape that's on this thing and get that stuff replaced. So anyhow, go ahead and get to work. Alright, so that raised up out of the way here. Got a brand new roll of Scotch Blue painter's tape because I don't know where the rest of it's at. So anyway, this stuff's not really wide enough for this. I would recommend getting some wider stuff. This is only 1.5 inches, but make it work. I think this is actually the same size as that new roll. Been using this 1.5 inch wide blue painter's tape for quite a while. I think this is actually the exact same tape, so yeah, same width, so I should be able to just replace the patches of this stuff that don't look very good, have holes in them and whatnot. So peel those off. Not sure, I'm not gonna really worry about that because it's way off to the side, but alright, so just a few tips for applying this stuff to anyone that's new to 3D printing. Basically, what you're trying to do is you're trying to get this on here without any gaps and also without overlapping it all. So the tape is right next to the other strip, but it's not on top of it. It's not an easy thing to do. But honestly, it's better to have a gap than it is to have an overlapped piece of tape. And it's definitely not good to have an air bubble under it like that. Like that. Feels pretty good. And usually I do just end up replacing a couple of strips of tape, not the entire bed worth, because there's no point in doing the whole thing if there's only a couple of these that are actually bad. But that might be overlapped a little bit, but it'll be okay. It's close enough for my liking. The problem with it being overlapped is that it might get tore up by the head of the nozzle when it goes over. So anyway, it doesn't feel like it's that big of a bump, so I'm not worried about it. So now the last thing that really needs to be done with this is to level the bed. And really it shouldn't be off by too much, but like the last 2 or 3 times I've tried to print stuff with this thing, it actually has been off by a lot. So yeah, every time I've had to level this bed, it's become a real pain in the butt. That's why I haven't really done any 3D printing videos lately. I should go ahead and just put some oil up this up the lead screws there and run the print head all the way up. Get oil and everything before I start moving it around, so it's already spread out good before we really start. So stop it right there, and grab the oil. The type of oil that I use is it's really thick stuff. It came in a needlepoint dispenser from the hobby shop around here, but it doesn't really take too much of this stuff. Put a little bit in a couple of these threads. I'm not too concerned about going all the way to the top. I hardly ever print anything that tall. Yeah, just keep everything running smoothly. And we'll put just a line of it going down this. Same thing with the one on the other side. And we're going to do the same thing to these rods as well. Alright, so I'll go ahead and raise this thing up to its max height or so. It'll take it a minute to get up there. The Z-axis is pretty slow. And as it's going up, it should be okay if we move these back and forth and get that oil going. And you'll see where the bearing actually stops there because you end up with a bunch of oil there. Looks like I actually have a reasonable amount of leftover oil on this thing from the last few times it's been done, but put a couple more drops over here and a couple more drops on this part, which won't hurt it. Feels like it's rolling pretty smoothly. So I'll just leave it like that. And we'll do the same thing with the X-axis. I don't think I put oil on this bottom rod for some reason. Doesn't really take too much oil to do this either. There's a couple drops worth. Alright, so that should have worked its way in there pretty good. Of course, you could have done that while I was printing too. And we're not quite all the way to the top, but it's near enough. So I'm going to go back down to the bed and we'll start working on leveling this thing. Anyway, we'll put that there. Make sure there's nothing on that nozzle that would possibly break off and cause issues with the bed leveling. So I'll just stick this sheet of paper underneath this to start with. Alright, so how I'm going to do this is just lower the print head in this starting corner until it's just barely touching that paper, which I'm not sure how close we are to it. We're about 1 millimeter. Go down by 1 millimeter. Then start dropping it by tenths of millimeters. Alright, so there's probably about good. So basically the way that I have this set up now is there's just a little bit of resistance when I move that paper back and forth. Like you can feel the head is there. So it's not really interfering with anything. So I'm just going to go ahead and kill the motors and push this around by hand because it's a lot easier. And I can already feel it, that's a lot tighter on this end. So we're over here. Go ahead and turn this until it's the same, until it feels the same. So it's all pretty much by feel, but that's how it's done. So go ahead and pull it this way. That actually feels pretty good. Might be over the aluminum though. Yeah, that's alright. Over here is a little bit loose. Unfortunately with this printer it's not designed too well for these wing nuts. Either that or the wing nuts are... What I should do is actually flip those wing nuts so that they're on the top, but actually I think they'd still hit. Because back here with this wing nut, it actually hits on the plastic when it goes through, so you have to have it at a 90-degree angle to that, so it's kind of hard to really tweak it and get it right, but it's close enough. See, now this one's actually loose now doing that, so you have to go around a couple times doing this, making sure it's alright. You can't just do it once. All by feel, and this time it wasn't actually too bad. Alright, so that actually seems pretty good, and I like where that's sitting there to start with. So, alright, so that about wraps it up for the maintenance of my particular 3D printer, which is a Reprap Prusa i3, which came in a kit that I had to build. But anyhow, that's about all there is to this. It took a little while. It should help the quality of the prints though, having those belts a little tighter. And now I don't have those ugly belt tensioners all over the place. So anyway, that's it for now, guys. Bye.